Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Carter.
Here.
Mrs. Cook. Mrs. Cash.
Here.
Mrs. Lopez.
Here.
Mr. Feldman.
Here.
Mr. Gregg.
Yeah, here.
Mrs. Ruda. Chair Williams.
Here. Do we have a quorum? We have a quorum, and therefore the Home Rules Study Commission is now in session. First order of business, approval of the minutes from the May 23rd meeting. You're all sent a copy of these early this week. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. Are there any corrections or additions to be made to the minutes?
Motion to approve them.
There's a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any objection to the minutes approved as written? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Next order of business, report from the chair. At this time, I have nothing to report. So we're moving on to public comments. Just a clarification, if you come up and make sure the microphone's on, provide your name and the street on which you live, limit your comments to 3 minutes, and if you, by attending or speaking, you are consenting to being recorded and live streamed.
Good evening, everyone.
I think is the green light on the microphone?
No,
There should be a
There should be
little
a button at the
Yes.
There
All
we
right,
go.
now we got action.
perfect.
Now we got action. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Vicki Wright Smith. I'm from the 100 block of South Marshall Street. I want to first start by thanking the commission for all the hard work that you've done so far. I personally still feel like things are moving a little fast and being rushed for something of this magnitude, but I have been following everything, so I understand the financial urgency side of what we're dealing with. The ARPA money, et cetera, ARPA money's running out, all that, I get that. But home rule doesn't just have to be about bailing the city out financially. It can be more, and it should be more. And what I really wanted to come here tonight and to remind all of you that history is watching you. What you're doing right now is historical, and I know you know that. And when history looks back on what you're doing here, don't you want history to be kind to you?
Yeah.
Right? You want history to be kind to you. So, most of the folks in here, well, not even most of the folks, but my family, Darlene, Tony, Maxine, if she was here, they know my story. My story is I grew up in Lancaster. My family, the Wrights, are very prominent, have always been active in the community. I went to McCaskey, went off to college, Penn State, went to Howard Law School, ended up staying in DC for like 35 years, and now I'm a resident of Lancaster, my hometown. So I say all that to say, DC too is governed by the Home Rule Charter that they established back in 1972. And at that time, one of the things that was established was a council member for each ward in the city. When I asked a few commissioners here today whether that was something that this commission was considering, I was told no. And some of the reasons that I was given blew me away. I heard excuses like, oh, we won't find qualified candidates. Imagine me telling my mom that. You already know what she thought when she first heard a statement like that, right? And my thing was, says who? Isn't it up to the voters to decide who's qualified? Then I heard, well, Vicki, we already have council members from all the quadrants. Why do we need one from all 7 wards? Isn't the answer obvious? We have 4 quadrants versus 7 wards. So I would say you would want everyone to have representation. But what do I know, right? And I can't think of...
We have to
I time mine. Mine is only 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
I time
Okay.
myself, trust me. I'm not coming before you and talking over
Nope.
3 minutes. But
Just trying to be fair to everybody.
I time myself, sir.
Okay.
And now you're taking part of my
Nope.
time.
You may have an extra 30 seconds.
Thank you. All right, let me get through it. I know you don't like what I'm saying, and I ain't here for you to like what I'm saying. So, back to where I was at. I can't think of anything more democratic or even progressive than to make sure each ward in this city has a representative on the city council. To not do so seems unfair and ridiculous to me. And it makes me think something else is going on here. One thing I've learned in my 58 years on this earth is that people are going to do what they want to do, and they will always find a reason to justify their actions. I hope in the end that you will all do the right thing and make sure that each ward in this city has a city council representative like DC knew was the right thing to do way back in 1972. You can certainly have at-large members, but in my opinion, there is no good reason not to make sure that each ward is represented. Finally, when I was listening in on your last meeting, I was also blown away by the fact that top executives were not required to live in the city, no residency requirement. I would ask you to at least consider having them required to live in the city for at least 2 years. Imagine being able to tax them. You ready to tax the other people that work in Lancaster? Seems fair to me that you would only make them be required to live in the place that they work. Thank you for your time.
I just got to. Thank you very much. Any other?
My name is Sabrina Wright. I live at the 700 block of West Vine Street. So that's so weird, okay? Which is representative when I come to find out when you're moving forward with this home rule. And talking with my sister, it made me concerned that we don't have representation. I'm a proud product of Lancaster City. And I really think that everyone should be represented. I've been in SOE for 15 years. My parents still live in the same house. And she has concerns about, I feel like it is rushed because not having no one speak up for what's going on in Southwest or Southeast, it's terrible. I mean, it concerned me. It really did concern me. I didn't want to come to this meeting, but I did want to come and speak up because my side is representative. When I talk to my mom, she has concerns about who is looking out for them. This is an opportunity to show her, Mom, somebody's looking out for y'all. But it's not an option. Apparently, it's not an option. Apparently, it's not an option. And she says, too, and she's a senior citizen, and she has concerns over increasing property taxes on a fixed income as a senior citizen and being a homeowner. Somebody should, and this is going to benefit the city financially, and these benefits a lot of people. A lot of people. And that's why I came up here on the whim, but I was sitting back there. I said, let me jot some stuff down that matters to me because SOE is represented in Southeast, and where I grew up is not, and my parents are still there, and I know a lot of parents, and I'm proud of Lancaster, and I wish y'all don't rush this to make sure that everybody is accounted for and represented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wright. Any other comments from the public? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the next.
Mr.
Yep.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to move the report of the Budget and Finance Committee to right now.
Okay, there's a motion to amend the agenda to move item 7D up to right now. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There is a second. Not sure if a motion to amend the agenda is debatable. I'll just call for, is there any objection? Hearing none, without opposition, next order of business is the report from the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay. Thanks for making that motion, and thanks for accommodating that. So, yeah, we had a meeting. Our most recent meeting was this past Monday, and at that meeting, we were joined by I need a microphone. Oh,
It's right
there's
there.
one. Okay. Joined by Director Tina Campbell for what I thought was a really good discussion about the position of controller. And so subsequent to that, you all received a document that looks like this, which was prepared by PEL to help guide us through some of the critical issues related to that. And I'm going to take a couple minutes now and just highlight what I feel like are the area. And the purpose of this is, our next meeting is this coming Monday, and we would really appreciate some additional guidance from the rest of the commission before we proceed with the rest of our discussion. We got into some questions that we felt deserved more input from all of you next. So, I'll sort of preface this by just saying, the core questions that we were coming around to were centered around, well, I'll start by acknowledging, so Director Tina Campbell came with, a great presentation on some of the things that, from the administration's perspective, would be valuable in terms of how the position of controller could be enhanced as we move forward. Some of the questions that we came around to were, and I'll describe these so that as I walk through some of the other remarks, you can have these in the back of your mind. Whether to require that the controller be either a licensed professional accountant
Yes,
or a certified public accountant,
the higher standard.
which is a higher standard. So we currently require them to be an accountant, but that requirement is fairly nebulous and is largely not really monitored. So licensed public accountant is one layer of professional credentials. Certified public accountant is another. The other discussion that we had was around whether they would be elected versus appointed. And a core of that was that maintaining an elected controller poses some challenges with also requiring those credentials. Because, the only way to ensure that, as I understand it, is, anybody can circulate petitions, get on the ballot. Removing them if they did not have those credentials would require a ballot challenge, which is a very adversarial thing. And without that, we could quite possibly in the future elect a controller that did not have those credentials if they didn't have them and nobody challenged them. In our discussion, if we were to proceed with an appointed controller, the intention would be for that to be led by council, nominated by council rather than by the mayor as some of the other positions. And as I said, we had what I thought was a good discussion. And after I make some remarks, I'll let both Darlene or Carl supplement that. So some of the things that we heard from the administration, and these are all in the document that was circulated to you, is that some of the expanded duties would be to have some financial oversight of city finance, well, to have financial oversight of city finances independent of the executive legislative branches, which is, I think, a part of the function now. To review the annual budget before approval by city council and make non-binding recommendations. To provide advice to the mayor and council on the selection of the independent auditor. That is part of our annual routine. Report to the mayor and city council on the progress of the implementation of any recommendations to be found in the annual audit and management letter. To review internal fiscal policies and recommend changes or additions to ensure that internal controls are in place. So those are the things that stood out to me as far as the expanded duties that could be valuable in a revised position of controller. And I'll stop there and invite either Commissioner Byrd or Feldman to supplement my remarks before we open things up for a little bit more discussion.
Well, I'll just say that we were looking for guidance from the whole commission, and I think whatever way you'd like to go about this, we'll pursue it after we hear from you. Specifically, I'm interested in the conversation around whether the controller would be appointed or elected. There's pros and cons for both. since I kind of made the case for the appointed controller, I'll make it again now, and, you all can discuss. I saw the detailed layout that the administration proposed of the controller taking on more and more important responsibilities. It seemed like a worthwhile endeavor for them to take that on and perform a fiscal watchdog role. That's what we say we want out of this person. And I guess I think that fundamentally, in order to perform that function, you really want to prioritize expertise. And in order to ensure that you're getting the expertise that you're looking for, it would probably be best to appoint that position. It could be a person, it could be a firm that holds the role. They would report to the council on their findings, and then the council would convey that to the public, to the mayor, acting kind of as a counterbalance. So there are some benefits because it prioritizes expertise, and there are some drawbacks, as I'm sure Ms. Bird will tell you all about.
Yeah, so the Budget and Finance Committee is made up of Commissioner McGrann and Commissioner Felderman and myself, and we did meet on Monday and we talked about the controller. The controller position right now is an elected position. It's part-time. It's supposed to represent our checks and balance in the finance and authorize and sign the checks that get signed and looked over things. So we as a commission had talked about the treasury position, and a consensus was that we eliminate that position. It was an elected position. So one of the goals of the home rule is to build trust in our citizens, also to require more participation. So if we talk about appointing the controller, you lose that internal benefit of somebody being external, not associated with the current administration. They're elected by the people to oversight. So I really feel that that's very important. I was thinking about, like they said, our Administrator Tina Campbell did go over some of the benefits she would like to see added to that position. And this position right now is a part-time position. So I found it kind of hard to add a lot more work to a position that's part-time. I had serious concerns about electing somebody because, like I said, number one, it's not the people's choice. And if the role of the controller is to be checks and balance. And then when I thought about the fact that we could appoint a firm, that really concerned me because the firm might not even be a resident of the city, or the employees of the firm may not be residents of the city. So we could be actually appointing a firm that would have somebody representing our checks and balance that don't even live in our city. So that concerned me a lot. I also think that some of the other things we talked about when we talk about having them have more information or well-informed, be an accountant or a CPA. Right now, our whole administrative finance administration, nobody's required to have a CPA or be a licensed accountant. So right now, we don't even have that required of our full-time staff. It's based on experience. So to put this on a part-time controller position, that has to be one of the qualifications when it hasn't been for years, concerns me. I think it takes away the representation of the people choosing somebody to do checks and balances. So I think that, and I guess that's where we all were. I mean, I wasn't totally 100% against an appointment until when it came down to a firm, and I thought about, well, that could be someone that that don't even live in the city, and they're going to be representing us. And I think it takes away from the people. So I think the position should stay elected. I think we need to talk about what that workload and the function of that controller is going to be. I mean, the other issue that I thought is that right now we're here because of the financial situation of the city. So the controller is not making that much money. If we add these responsibilities or we appoint somebody, I think that person's going to need to be more of a full-time position. So again, we're talking about adding cost to the city. So that was my stand. We had a nice discussion Monday at our meeting, and we said, well, let's take this to the whole commission
and let's hear some feedback from you so we know a little bit more what to do come Monday when we have our next meeting. Is that
Agreed. Yeah.
okay?
Thank you. My thought is, that was the Budget and Finance report. Is there any other part of the report that you wanted?
That's pretty much all we talked about.
Okay,
The whole hour.
so
Here again on Monday.
again, we can pick that up under the deliberations on the form of government.
Okay.
Are there any questions about the report, not about the deliberations? We'll pick up that again. All right,
Okay, so just so I'm, because
He's gonna hand it over to
I'm just
Jared.
trying to keep the check
So
boxes.
when we proceed with the discussion of,
When he hands it to Jerry, we'll
we'll
just.
pick up on it at that.
Yes,
Sounds fine.
yep, in probably about 2 minutes.
Sounds fine.
Okay, so moving on to the deliberations on form of government. So we've been talking about the form of government, various aspects on the agenda. Now, in addition, is the controller, mayor, solicitor, and appointed officials. Is there any other items that anybody just wants to bring up?
Yeah. So I think the conversations related to city council specifically have grown more in depth and require more care. I think we are at the point that it makes sense to have a subcommittee, and not just for the depth of the conversation, but some feedback I got when I was at the African American Festival was that when we went out and started going to the neighborhoods, we weren't really engaging with the people. We weren't talking with them. We were talking to them about what this is. And I think creating a subcommittee for the city council aspect of the charter allows us to go and have more engaging conversations with the residents about where their desires are actually at. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that for me, this is going off years of what I've gotten in terms of feedback from city residents.
Would you like to make a motion, or?
I would like to make a motion to create a subcommittee regarding the city council aspect of the form of government.
Okay, there is a motion to form a subcommittee to study aspects of the city council
Like, just
legislative,
take the whole section that is the city council, just, that's what the subcommittee is about.
okay, on city council. Is there a second?
Now, second.
There is a second. Deliberations. Is there any discussion?
Well, I have a question, which is that we started talking about the draft council charter components, and I suspect that you'll have things you'll want to talk about in your subcommittee. Does this mean we can no longer continue to discuss the council components at this meeting?
I would say, no, it doesn't. It does not preclude us from any other discussions. It would be, I would take this as a subcommittee would be formed that will then, on their own, study and report back to the full commission. But the full commission can discuss any other items with or without a report from the subcommittee.
Same as public engagement, preamble, ethics,
Absolutely,
budget and finance.
yes.
Okay.
And I guess one of my concerns is about calling it a subcommittee, because that requires us to actually have the dates, get them posted, get it listed. I think we talked about maybe having a committee, but not a committee, but a group of commissioners. I don't know if we prefer to do it as a subcommittee. I was just thinking of timing, because we would want to schedule meetings within the community and get feedback, and we would have to go through the process. I think we do a scheduling meetings if it's a subcommittee, given the proper notice.
I would say it would have to be a
It has to
formal
be a
subcommittee
formal.
in keeping with the Sunshine Law.
Okay, would be,
It's formed by the body to perform any function of the body.
is a committee.
Is a committee.
Okay.
And subject to the Sunshine Act law.
Well, then I agree. Thank you.
I understand the tediousness, but I think that, it just makes sense and it deserves that level of care.
That way.
Any other discussion? Somebody want to call the question?
Call the question.
Question's been called on the motion to form a subcommittee to study city council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
In the opinion of the chair, the motion carries. There will be a subcommittee formed. In keeping with what we have been doing, subcommittees will consist of 3 commission members. Mr. Dastra, would you be willing, you made the motion.
I'd be willing to
Do you
chair.
want to chair it? Okay,
Yes.
so you will be chairing it. Are there any volunteers to serve on the subcommittee?
Sure.
Yes.
So Ms. Byrd and Ms. Cook, keep in mind, the subcommittee is formed, keeping with the Sunshine Law and the bylaws of the commission. All your meetings must be posted, agenda. We can talk about all the details. All right, thank you. Moving on, next order of business. Again, well, I will argue that under deliberations of form of government would include any deliberations on government, so I would suggest we move on to discussion of the controller.
Sounds right.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with this, without objection, I would move to a committee of the whole, allow representatives from PEL to act as moderators. Any objection?
No.
Hearing none. Mr. Reddick, Mr. Cross, sorry, I'm getting my names, Ms. Moore.
Okay, Morgan.
It's yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We passed out to everyone as a follow-up to Monday's discussion and the committee report that Commissioner McGran reviewed with you. Following the meeting, we pulled together what we felt would be a good way to look at responsibilities of both an elected controller and an appointed controller. And we can go down through that, recognizing that although they're outlined as elected and appointed, ultimately you can, if you're writing the charter or give us direction in writing the charter after making decisions, you can mix and match, if you will, the responsibilities. We took into account the comments that were made by Ms. Campbell at the meeting on Monday in terms of some of the roles and responsibilities that the administration felt would be appropriate for a controller, whether it's elected or appointed. So with that, why don't we just go down over the different categories, starting with the election and term of office. The election term of office section under the third-class city code basically provides that the term of office for the controller is 4 years, starting the first Monday in January after the election. The appointed controller language, we wrote, the controller would be either an individual or a firm selected by city council by majority vote. If a firm is selected, the firm shall designate an authorized individual to serve as representative of the firm in the fulfillment of the controller's responsibilities.
Mandatory. Could just be an individual.
Right, right.
I don't think that's clear.
Okay, yeah. The individual or firm is an option, and you could clarify that in writing to be either an individual or an individual and a firm. It does not have to be both of them.
You could edit these.
We would not have to require, we wouldn't have to have the option for a firm.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct.
All these are,
Okay.
All of what we have here are options,
Okay.
to discuss. So I would open, the last part of that is the term for an appointed controller would be 4 years, consistent with the term of the mayor. And I would open for discussion, again, recognizing that it could be either elected or appointed, whether there was, what the commission felt. Ms. Burr?
No, I'm not hearing.
I'm sorry. My suggestion is we go down to the qualifications and the powers and duties, and then come back up
Okay.
to terms and
Election.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question about that? Because I'll just say my feeling from the subcommittee was, basically, if we know whether you want appointed or elected, we can take it from there.
Right.
Your, of
Okay.
course, prerogative is to say whatever you want. But the thing that I kind of came here thinking was, we just want to know, do you think this position should be elected or appointed? And then once we get that
We
on
can
next Monday,
discuss
we'll
it.
work it out.
That was sort of what I was hearing was like the impasse, and so you needed us to kind of like.
That's my
Yeah.
perspective on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of agree.
Did you have anything to add?
I said I kind of agree.
I mean, I guess, I do think, what I would just add to that is, I do think that appointing it creates, to me, I think the core question is like, appointing it creates the opportunity to seek out an individual who brings
Or firm.
certain qualifications. Whereas electing the person is elected, so it's selected by the voters, but may result in somebody who may not be as qualified being elected to this position.
It's about priorities.
So
What are
that's,
you going to prioritize?
to me, that seems to me to be the balance.
Could an appointed, could we put in a requirement on who could fire the appointed controller? So while the mayor would appoint it with advice and consent, the mayor could not fire the controller
We would imagine,
without the
That's not how
city
we would imagine it
council.
being reversed. We would imagine the appointment being led by city council.
council.
Not by the mayor, so as to
Okay.
provide a check and balance to the mayor's office.
Okay.
But
I'm
question still a
I'm
question.
just saying, whoever hires them, is it possible that they should not be allowed to fire them? I'm thinking in terms of suddenly somebody writes a report and says this and this, oh, we really don't, I don't like that, you're fired. You know, I want to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
And so, yeah,
I agree with that.
Election.
with the, I'm just, well, this may be for PL, is that something that's even possible? That you could put in a requirement as to, that the person could not just be summarily discharged, there has to be reason and approval, and,
It'd be like with supermajority.
or is that a really dumb idea and that you wouldn't want that anyway?
You could establish a supermajority vote for dismissal of the position.
The hiring body should be the dismissal body, because you assume they judge both on hiring and they judge on performance.
Okay,
But you don't want it to be so easy that it's cavalier, or that it's done because somebody made somebody mad.
Like so.
well, that was my
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
You can make it more than a supermajority. If you can do, I wouldn't say unanimous, but.
You could do a two-thirds or something, or say.
Make it a little tougher.
I want to throw in a third potential option. We haven't met, the Ethics Commission hasn't met in a while yet, but this is actually something where I like the idea of the election because it creates a separation. But I also hear the appointment side because of the ability to find it like a true professional. However, I'm interested in the idea of like, if we do create an ethics commission, depending on how that's made up, the ethics commission being the hiring and firing body for the city controller. So there is a separation from the job they do for city council, for the mayor, and then that body, like if they see an issue, it's like, hey, we're the ethics commission. It's kind of our job to be on the up and up.
Or that they could at least make a recommendation.
Yeah.
I think that is very important because I look at them as like, I don't know where the thing is, but I look at them as saying, here's a body that's going to be the most objective. And so I think if they're making it a recommendation, I think that would like set the tone. I mean, that's just sort of the way I look at it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that too. I just like the idea of, like both options I'm not huge fans of, so it's like, can we create this third that's a little more separate from the others?
Not necessarily a third, but at least something else that, not necessarily a third, but at least something else, another means of.
Like a check and balance.
Yes.
Yes.
Another means of check and balance,
Yes,
however that is.
And I guess that's why I said an elected position, because that's where I felt that would most be accomplished. But if there is language that says, I will not agree with appointing a firm to be our controller. I think it needs to be an individual, and I think that person needs to live in the city. And I think that needs to be in our language. I will not agree to appointing a firm. So if we can agree to eliminate that appointment of firm, I can look at an appointment as an option. As it stands now and saying we can appoint a firm, it's not an option for me.
Why?
Because I think the person needs to live in the city. And if you hire a firm, you don't know where that person lives or who they appoint. I don't think a firm really looks out for the residents. I think they're going to look out for
the
that.
mayor. Or the
They're going to look out for that, their job and their proficiency in it, more so than they're going to look out for the people. I think an elected person brings views for what's best also for the people, and not just looking at the books and the balances.
Or possibly what's best for themselves.
I have
But
a
I don't
question
think
for
it
you
should be
guys.
for the firm. Oh,
I have a question for you guys. So what you're saying is basically that if we go elected, that you're thinking that, that you're not going to get somebody who is licensed. Is that what you're thinking?
What I'm saying is that if you are to have an election for this role, anyone can run and win an election. And they may not be, in the election of that position, able to fully prioritize the technical capabilities of performing these sophisticated and technical functions. It's about priorities.
Unless there is a requirement to run in the first place that you have to have
Right.
those credentials. Is that possible?
Is that
Or no, I
possible?
see.
We are, I'm sorry, we talked about,
discussed that deeply.
our understanding is that that's it's not possible.
Well, it is.
No, it is possible,
Currently required that you be
an accountant,
requirement.
but it doesn't go beyond that under the code.
But the enforcement of that is problematic in the first place. But
Right. Another option that you can look at, and it's addressed in the document,
we addressed in the
is
last page.
that the controller could appoint a deputy controller, and the deputy controller could be given, this is
The
elected
license.
controller, that is, could appoint a deputy controller who, and you could establish requirements for that position, probably doing that in the administrative code. But you could establish include provisions for a deputy controller and address qualifications on a much stronger basis for that position.
I'm going to come back just to give you I'm going to say what I think is the case, and if I'm wrong, is that it's not unlike somebody who collects signatures on a petition,
Right.
which is you can, if the requirement is 100 signatures and they collect 200, but 150 of them are fake or from outside of the city or whatever, that only gets sorted out if somebody else says, I think that
You got to take them to court.
you have to take them to court. You have to take them to court in order to prevent them from getting onto the ballot.
Understood.
So you can say that they must be a CPA, but somebody who's not a CPA can get on the ballot, and they may remain on the ballot unless somebody challenges their candidacy. You follow me?
It's just a challenging rule to enforce.
Right. And I think.
And why wouldn't a candidate want to reveal that if they wanted to win the position?
They don't want to
Meaning
look like a
reveal
jerk.
that they did have the credentials. Just to answer.
Human beings are
Fun.
funny people.
They don't know the rules. They don't want to look like
They
a
don't know the
jerk.
rules, they want to disregard the rules, they don't think anybody's going to call them out.
Yeah.
I just would like to ask, and I know Ms. Tina's here, but I would just like to ask, how do we feel the controller has operated in the past in the elected role? Do we think that the controller the way that we do things now, in the third-class city, we elect a controller, are we feeling they are not doing what they need to be doing, that we're wanting to change things and make this a more professional role by a certified CPA or a licensed accountant? Are we thinking because what we do now is not working?
So, and And I'll let Tina jump in if she feels, but I think the summary from the administration's position is that the role can be expanded to help do things better than they're being done.
Okay,
Not that what's
okay.
being done is being done poorly,
Okay.
or bad, but part of the job of the commission is to look at what can we do better for
Right.
the residents. So,
Right.
I think the administration's view, whether it's elected or appointed, and I mean,
Okay.
PEL has pointed out here
Right.
that, you could have an elected controller with power to appoint a deputy controller who has technical expertise. What I think the administration's position and what Ms. Campbell tried to express on Monday was that there are areas of expertise that could be brought to assist the city in doing things better. Looking at how can we improve internal controls, how can we improve financial procedures, how can we better select and be more efficient in our selection of professionals, whether it's auditors or otherwise, that maybe we don't get right now. That's not that it's broken,
Right.
but that would be a way
Okay.
to allow for that to happen. And so I think that, Ms. Campbell, if I've summarized what you were trying to get across on Monday, that's really the issue. Nothing is wrong. It's about
Okay.
how can we do it better, and we view that as a significant part of the commission's role here.
And I guess then our second goal would be how do we do it better, but also cost effectively. So that would put in whether we're looking at full-time or hiring a deputy, are we still being cost effective? Is it going to be more cost effective to have somebody within an administration that is already employed have those skills so that we're not changing this role of our checks and balance to get that skill that's needed to make us better at what we're doing. Does that?
Well, keep in mind though, you don't want somebody who works for the administration being the deputy.
No.
And so what you would need to do is if you want to go that route, you probably are hiring a separate person who reports to this single elected official. That's a very strange arrangement to begin with. And I also think that person's going to get paid and they're going to get benefits. Whereas if you were to hire a firm, you pay them a flat fee. It is I see that as a cost-effective solution.
Right, and I guess I was saying that, but saying also, like our financial administration, we don't have anybody that's a CPA or an accountant.
I don't know that we don't have anybody.
No,
I'd
we
say
asked
we
that
don't have a
question.
requirement.
But we don't currently in our staff, in the financial administration, have anybody that holds the title of a CPA or a licensed accountant. And I'm asking or suggesting, why wouldn't that happen with the staff that we already have hired due to the fact we are looking to be cost effective versus trying to put that position into the controller or the deputy controller?
Are you
Those
saying
skills that we say we need.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, but let me ask you this. Are you saying that for that reason, you would prefer to have a separately elected person under similar circumstances we have today with similar arrangement we have today? Is that what you're suggesting?
That's what she's saying.
That's not what I said.
I don't understand what
It's
you're
kind of like you, if I'm understanding it, like you're basically saying we could save money if we would just utilize the staff that we currently have, if they have the credentials to do that.
Right, because what we're saying to perform better,
To
we
do
need
what?
to do the checks and whatever function we're giving the controller. Right now, we're trying to say that requirement needs to be a CPA or a licensed accountant.
But it needs to be a check position. So if you
A
can't
check
use the
or,
staff we have today to do that function, is what I'm getting at.
And
Because they report to the mayor.
right, as a, go ahead.
No, I just have a question for Pell, in that amongst other charters, is there an establishment of what these positions typically are paid, or if they're quantified as full-time, part-time? Because I am assuming that, we could take a middle ground and say, let's set up a mechanism, and if the controller starts to say, like, hey, I need more time, therefore we need to dedicate more resources, maybe that's where we say, as a public, it's time to amend the charter to account for that. So I'm just curious what other communities do when they start to change the structure around, especially around the subject of pay.
Well, I can't specifically address the compensation issue without
Right.
some research, but the city of Harrisburg has an arrangement where they have an elected controller who is basically part-time, and they have a deputy controller who is full-time and who really, serves as that check and balance, reporting to the elected controller, but the deputy controller, and that's provided for, that structure is provided for right now in the third-class city code.
Okay.
And that, the Harrisburg example is a good one because that person is a longtime city employee. So while they have the institutional knowledge when the elected official can change, they have a set history of internal controls, where the weaknesses are, but the controller still makes the decisions based on the fact that they're elected.
Right, and what they want to look at, what they want to, what
What they want to perceive.
policies or things they want to look into.
Who does that person report to? Is that person
Right,
with?
To the controller.
Right, so they're not the staff of the city per se.
No,
They're elected.
they're the staff of the controller.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
work in other
So that
offices in
sounds
City Hall,
reasonable, like what you were
but
saying.
they're part of the financial administration of the controller.
Yeah.
So the overall
Yeah.
city financial administration, they're part of the independent contror's side.
And
And
Ms. Bird,
does have qualifications.
Yeah, he has
Bird.
qualifications.
CMA, yeah.
to your point, Ms. Bird, and I think Mr. Feldman addressed this quite well, but it could not be a position in the administration because
Right.
you would lose the check and balance.
Right. And I
Function.
understand that, and I wasn't saying it was a position, I'm talking about the qualifications.
Okay.
So if you have a controller that does not have a CPA or a licensed accountant, but the person that's doing the work that the controller is checking is, then you know they're doing it more accurately because they have that knowledge. Right now, we do not require any of our financial administrations that have that knowledge, but yet we want to put that on the controller. And so I was saying, if it was within the administration that we said, okay, that our financial administrator needs to have a CPA, then that gives the controller, why I know the person that's doing it is not doing it just on experience, but also on having that license or that certification. Because right now, nobody in the administration office has that. They only have the experience. So I'm saying if that was, we tightened that up, and it was being presented more, it puts less on the controller because now you would have a certified accountant that's checking the audits, giving you the work to check to make sure it's right. We know that they know what they're doing because they have the CPA and they're not just there on their experience. That's what I was trying to say, not hire that person within the staff.
So let me ask, just to clarify, the deputy controller is the one that you want to have the credentials?
Well, not,
Deputy controller?
but we can have the deputy.
No, I'm just
that's not what
asking.
I said, but
I'm
yes.
just clarifying, yes,
Right.
okay.
I'm just, if that's the way they go with the deputy controller, I would, I could see that. I mean, long as we have the understanding that who appoints that deputy controller? Is it the elected controller that would appoint the deputy
That's what
controller?
it says, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
That's what it says. The city controller may appoint a deputy controller as one of the powers, under the elected one. Under the appointed, the city council would appoint
Right,
and
right.
have them report back to
No.
city council. So the elected has its own base of support from the election fact, but also the control of their office, according to the third-class code.
So I,
And that's a model that Harrisburg has.
It is.
And the way the third-class city code has it now is typical to what you would do in a charter, which is, again, it's a may and not a shall, right? So you're leaving the flexibility to the elected officials. Currently, council may appoint a deputy controller. If you went with a charter and said, we're going to have an elected controller, you could have it as the deputy controller may be appointed by the controller itself. You would follow by who it's coming from. If it's elected, you leave it with council. If it's appointed, you would put that with the controller to do it. That allows the internal controls to stay in place.
Could we essentially make the rule in the charter that if we go with an elected controller, the elected controller shall appoint a CPA certified accountant as a deputy controller unless the elected controller can prove that they have said certification? can we make an exception like that? Because I do think that we need to make it like a guarantee for the technical skill.
Right.
That's
Yep.
a thing for me.
That's upgrading the quality of the services that the city is going to be receiving.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So is the commission as a whole feeling it should be an elected, which I think is what Carl was getting at the beginning, an
Yeah,
elected
that's what
or
we'd like to know.
appointed
That's
position?
what we'd like to
Right.
And
know.
then we could have
We can
discussion and bring
Right, I think-
something back to you if we know that as a
Right.
whole, the commission is looking for an
What
appointed
would you like?
or an elected position, then we could work in our committee meeting and bring something back to you that would address some of the concerns.
And I
we
guess
heard.
if I can, what I think I'm hearing is that there is some consensus around the idea of a credentialed financial professional being within this office,
Yes.
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 But-
right?
Yes.
So how we get,
Is it elected or appointed?
and that there's some appeal to the idea of the controller being elected.
Yes, yes.
So if we can achieve that,
I
Those
think
two
that's the
things.
direction we needed.
That's what
that's-
we
I think
need to
that's
know.
what we need
That's
to
what we
know.
were asking for.
then we can go back to our committee.
Okay.
Agreed.
I
Work
agree.
through more of this stuff, and we can allow everybody to go on to the next agenda item.
So the consensus is the four of
That-
us
right?
to tell the three of you.
Right.
I actually do have one other question related to this.
Yeah.
So I know that we can't make nonpartisan elections. Can we allow the city controller to cross-file if it is an election?
No, that's in the state
Can't.
law.
That's state law.
No, that's why I'm asking. I don't know. That's why I asked. Like,
I don't think you can
You
have
can't
that.
modify election laws through the adoption of it.
okay, I was only asking if the
Not
school
trying to
board can
modify.
cross-file.
Well, that's specifically allowed to school
That's
board,
in the school code.
because public education is a
MDJs.
city
And
uniform
MDJs
right.
can too.
That's
So-
all
so-
along with them.
Okay, so just among the four of us, what would we like to report back to the,
I think we got,
Yeah, we
I
got
think
it.
you got our answer right. Do you need
Yeah,
us
we
to
got
each individually say it? Okay.
Okay.
I think for the
We-
public,
we want
it
it all.
should be stated.
Oh, sure. So I really like the idea of having the controller being elected because I agree with Commissioner Darlene that I think it's nice that the public have a say in this. I think it's important that we know that they have a say in that important role. And then I do think that that person should have the authority to hire appoint the deputy, and then between somehow how you were saying it, Commissioner Tony, that the credentials between one of them should be there, I think is important. I think that just totally upgrades the quality of the services that we can give, that the city can receive in the future.
I will put in my 2 cents is, actually, I would prefer the controller be appointed. And that
Yeah.
because they are appointed by city council, the voters already do get a say on who it is. If they don't like it, they go to their city council person and go to city council and say, no, you picked a dud. I see elections as leadership positions. I wouldn't see the reason for electing a city engineer or electing the solicitor. I see the controller as a similar position, and I just think that they should be appointed.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think the technical skill needs to be there. I would prefer a certified public accountant. I have concerns. I have concerns in either an election or an appointed manner. The reason I asked the question, I just had to know, is because I don't know how the world will, or how the city, I should say, will move, how the politics of the city will move. And I think it's really important that this person is as removed from politics as possible, which is, I wish we could do nonpartisan stuff. I get that we can't. That's why I asked the question about cross-filing. That's where the whole idea of the ethics body comes into play. Like, I really want to create a separation between city council, the mayor, and the controller. And I feel like the ethics, if we do an ethics body, whatever that may look like, that might be where those appointments should come from if we go with that route.
My fellow commissioners have great points to and fro, but I am in favor of having an appointed controller that is credentialed and an elected, no, I take it back, deputy controller appoint a deputy controller that is credentialed with an elected,
Controller.
yes, controller. I like that idea. And I like it to be for the people. You know, we have to have some kind of trust. We're talking about what the city needs now. We're already in a deficit situation. They're trusting us to come up with something that helps guide the city to improve circumstances. And I think, like Tony said, keeping them away from
Yeah.
partisan, I think is helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, we know what we need to do.
So you have the
We have our
the
assignment.
opinion of the commission.
Yep, that is very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the, I guess, the mayor.
The charter section of the mayor.
Charter, yeah,
We have the sample
Sometimes
charter
it's here.
section
Yeah,
in
just
front of
put it
you.
in there.
We'll have it up on the screen. Those are passed out at the last meeting, the sample charter sections for mayor and
Article 3.
everybody have theirs? Okay. We can start with the Article 301, the general powers and duties. And what we'll do is I'll read them between Fred and myself. We'll read the language and then we can talk about each specific section as we go. The mayor serves as the chief executive officer of the city. All executive, administrative, and law enforcement powers of the city shall be vested in the mayor, except as otherwise provided by applicable law or this charter. The mayor shall be the official representative of city government and shall have the authority to represent the city in deliberations with other governmental bodies. The mayor may delegate such authority to any other elected or appointed officer of the city. If there's no problems with that, any discussion on those items?
Yeah, I just want to, I didn't know that we had a discussion about if the mayor owned a business. That's new for me reading that. I never heard that. Maybe we discussed it
That's the,
at the meeting. I was not there.
no, that is when we're drafting these, we're also trying to remember the discussions of other parts, and that came under the prohibition section. If you remember, we had a discussion of what the mayor cannot do while they're in office. You know, hold another elected office.
Holding other offices.
Okay, so,
yeah. it said
so we
business.
put that up top just to
Okay.
remind us, and
Yeah.
maybe it should be down further, but it's up top.
Right.
I was going to bring that up at the appropriate section, 305.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I just, it just said businesses, and I
Yes,
know we
yes.
talked extensively about holding other offices.
kind of a
But
discussion.
that's what that was
your
for,
thought.
okay. I think when we talked about the mayor and general powers, I know I had brought up a lot of the other home rule commissioners make that a little more clarified statements. They all say different things in them. And I think when we had this discussion, I didn't bring it with me tonight, but there's other charters that put some more language in there that makes their general powers and duties a little longer and I think more defined. And I prefer to see some of that language, and I guess I can bring it. I brought it up when we discussed it. I didn't bring it with me tonight. But I did mention it when we were having these discussions. I actually read from the different home rules what different things that they wrote out of the ones that we were provided with.
Ms. Byrd, Section 301 is a very general paragraph. If you go to, and we will get to it, Section 209 or 309, powers and duties of the mayor, that has much more detailed responsibilities and powers. So that may address your comment.
in fact, I actually brought along the Allentown Charter. I don't know what prompted me to do so, but I did. And I can read to you exactly what it says in the Allentown Charter. The executive, administrative, and law enforcement powers of the city shall be vested in the mayor. The mayor shall control and be accountable for the executive branch of the city government as provided by this charter. That's it, 2 sentences.
Right, but the other charters.
Yeah, and then it goes
The
on.
other charters are more like
They
two
do.
paragraphs,
But-
not
but
just two
They
sentences.
do go on later. So
Right. Right.
You had said about other charters.
This is general powers.
To that point, I see the Home Rule Charter of Easton, for example, has the same, it has the same general powers and duties, basically. But there is a section that goes on to talk more about the powers and
And
the
I think he
duties
said that's in
specifically.
9.
So there's another, so there
Okay.
is another,
I guess
there
right
are
there.
other charters that have it more specific in another area.
And we're more specific, as you'll see, as we go through this in section 309. We delineate the specific powers and duties of the mayor. This paragraph is more general so that it sets the stage. It basically says the mayor is the executive branch of the government, or the executive authority is vested in the mayor, and then similar in the council, it would be the legislative powers is vested in the council. So we're setting the players up here on the stage.
It'll come, okay.
We're setting up who they are,
Gotcha.
that's general description. We're basically saying, here's the role the mayor fulfills, and here's the role the council fulfills. Then we're going to specifically get into details, which is 209.
Yeah, I have some thoughts when we get to 309, so I'm going to
Yeah.
hold any comment for now.
Well, how are we doing on general powers and duties? Is there acclamation on this, or is there affirmation?
This is not the vote, we're just coming to a consensus.
You'll
So-
see.
Okay,
Okay?
good.
Now, the qualifications for the mayor were discussed, and the suggested language is candidates for mayor must be registered voters in the city and have resided continuously in the city for 4 years prior to the date of the primary election for mayor and be at least 18 years of age. The mayor shall reside in this city throughout the term of office.
I still am going to advocate that there should be a little bit of a higher threshold on the age. I'm going to come the whole way down and say, like, if we're going to expect the mayoral candidates to live in the city for 4 years consecutively, saying 22, because 18, 19, 21, or I guess 21
As an
actually.
adult.
Yeah, like just like those 4 years, like those first 4 years, I don't think you should be learning. Like you're an adult learning still. I think that it's reasonable to just say, all right, from 18, after 4 years, then yeah, you're eligible. Like run at that point.
The interpretation of that section would be those 4 years could be residents before they're 18.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think those 4 years should start once you turn 18.
Why shouldn't they count?
So that-
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree. I mean,
You
I
live here
would
your
need to
whole
know why
life?
you're not counting.
Yeah. We discussed this extensively. I don't wish to revisit it.
Okay. I was just throwing that out there again.
Well, I agree with Mr. Dasher. I'd like it to be 25, but the consensus is 18, and let's keep going.
Okay.
But not, for the record, we just think the mayor should be a little bit older.
We agree with that.
Yeah, we agree, but
Well,
All
it's
right.
also.
people elected.
I'd like to just make a point of reference. It's interesting that for the mayor, it's only 18 years of age and only lived here in the city for 4 years, but we had other conversation about city council people having to be qualified.
Yeah.
So if these are the qualifications for a mayor, I don't think city
Right.
council qualifications
That's right.
need to be more than that.
I think they were the similar, weren't they? The
think
registered
they're
voter in
less.
18?
The-
Wasn't it? Am I reading, let me read here, let me.
We'll go back to city council. I just mean that when we were talking about qualifications
residency
of city
between-
residents,
Yeah, 2 years residency.
when we were talking about qualifications for city residents,
help get your
that there was
feet
some
in
concern
there.
that city residents ought to have more qualifications to be a city council
Other
person.
qualifications.
Okay, the qualifications that we showed in the charter section for council are just 2 years residency.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was discussion that there'd be more. I'm just making a point
Yeah,
of
no,
reference.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
all
gonna
right.
match them
For the
up.
record.
Yeah, for the record.
We don't have an age in the council, by the way. Okay.
Okay. We're good.
Election and term of office, and this is standard, I think. The regular election of the mayor shall be held on the general municipal election day, that's November, as established by the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The term of office of the mayor shall begin on the first Monday of January following the municipal general election and shall be for 4 years.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay?
I don't know if this matters. What if the first Monday is January 1st? Does that matter?
There's a clause for that.
We set it up on the Monday, so if January 1st is, let's say, Friday,
Well, what if January 1st is the first Monday?
Well, then it would be
That's a holiday.
the following holiday. We could qualify that. We have
So I've read in some of them, it said the
Yeah.
first Monday after the first Sunday. So, yeah, okay.
Usually,
need to say
if
that?
it's Monday is a legal holiday, it's the next business day. We'll have to put that language in.
Okay.
Like I said,
I think that's somewhere else.
I've just seen it written as
So we'll
the
add-
the first
you said we will
such and
add
such
that.
after.
He said they'll put in
I mean,
first
you could just say
business day.
January 2nd.
That's what I think it should be, it should start
First
January
business
2nd.
day in
Yeah,
January.
business day sounds.
Wait, you want to just say January 2nd?
I prefer just January 2nd.
That's fine with me
Yeah,
too.
all right.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with business.
For now and forever, January
Then
2nd.
the council would have.
We will not change that, right?
Yes.
So is this thinking the same thing for the city council then? You would have the city council at January 2nd.
Sworn in on the, yeah,
That would seem reasonable.
It's fine with me.
What if January 2nd is a Sunday?
life
Why don't we
stinks
do the
sometimes.
first business day of the year in January?
Oh, that could be January 7th.
I have no problem with them coming in on Sunday to get sworn in.
They may.
They may, you're right.
Well,
And pointing out there may be a religious issue.
oh, okay, yeah,
But they can have an
okay,
oath.
I follow that.
They could take the oath after, or, yeah, they just wouldn't have their seat. Okay, well, requirements of the office. Prior to taking the oath, the office of mayor, the duly elected mayor shall take an oath of office. So before you're the mayor, you take an oath. The format for the oath shall be, I swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I shall discharge the duties of my office with fidelity, or such other oath as council may prescribe. The oath of affirmation may be taken and signed before any judge or district justice of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. No person shall be permitted to assume said office until the oath in written form and executed has been filed with the city clerk.
We do now.
Yes.
Easy enough?
Take a note.
Mm-hmm.
You want?
I mean, what it says. Is this exactly what our oath is now?
Yeah.
Is this what our oath says now? That they take when they're sworn in? It is, okay.
I can pull it up.
No, I take your word for it.
I always like to check, this is what I was always taught for many years, always check the source before guaranteeing that you know.
Oh, okay.
No matter how good your memory is, you can sometimes be wrong, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm fairly sure the
Okay.
Third Class City Code provides for the taking of an oath by the mayor. But I'll confirm it while you guys move on.
Okay, very good.
Okay, let's move to 305 then, prohibitions. And what we have drafted, a mayor may not, A, hold an elected office of the United States, B, hold an elective office of the Commonwealth, except notaries public or officers of the militia, C, hold an elective office of the county, D, hold an elective office of a school district located in the city, and E, serve as an officer or employee of the city.
It's all stuff we agreed to.
Now, the comment up above, to address prohibitive offices or an employee of the city, if a mayor owned a business or was an attorney or some other profession, should they be prohibited from spending some time with that business?
I don't think
I think
Charlie
that's-
Smithville had to give his pharmacy up, did he?
Somebody else
Or-
ran it, though.
Or his farm in Drumore, so,
Right.
Yeah.
but, yeah. I think that would be, you risk construing it that a person has to sell their business or somehow or another
Sell it.
in, and I think that would actually limit people from wanting to run if they couldn't, if they're a partner in a law firm. I can see why the law firm would not want them actively practicing, but to sell, they said they would have to get rid of their share. I think that would be a little too much.
I mean, we're a small business community, so I think that's a really hard ask.
Right.
Right.
And
It's not an uncommon practice that a mayor would potentially have some involvement with a business.
And what have you seen the practice to be in the municipalities across Pennsylvania? What's the majority?
Individual discretion of the mayor.
Right.
The mayor's not generally prohibited from doing that, but it may be circumstances, there's too much time at the business, so they have someone else run it, or they try to do both.
So I did check the statute. It does confirm that an oath is required.
Right.
It also, just so you're clear, both for council and the mayor, the language in the third-class city code regarding the date of swearing in, it reads on the first Monday of January after the regular municipal election. If the first Monday is a legal holiday, the mayor, and then it's the same for council, shall be inaugurated and take oath the first day after that day or as soon after that day as possible.
Right.
That's the language that the current third-class city code is.
And I was just talking about the oath itself, what we say, is that what we still say? The oath that we give, I swear or I affirm. I was talking about that language.
Yeah, there's specific language in a separate section of law that governs oaths, and that is the standard
Okay,
language. Yes,
that's what I was just asking, yeah.
To do one or the other, you're required to choose one of the two, swear or affirm.
Okay,
There are many who take swearing as
yeah,
an opposition for religious
Yeah.
beliefs and otherwise, so they take
Right.
an affirmation.
yes, okay.
Yeah, and back to the own a business, be a lawyer question. I mean, I don't have an objection to them owning a business or being a lawyer. I think, if I would have any concern, it would be with, potential, abuses of power, which I think could be solved by the ethics
That's
commission.
what I
Yeah, I
was
have a
gonna
solution
say.
for you.
Yeah.
So
that's,
the thinking is, this is exclusive, what was listed in the charter. Anything else goes.
Anything else goes.
And I think that's pretty.
The voters don't like
Yeah.
it, they'll vote them out.
Right, and we keep saying that, we gotta stop
Well,
saying
when the
that.
election comes up,
We're gonna
I
vote them
mean,
out, but,
in the meantime, they can maintain.
right, and for me, I think our discussion, the discussion was more about running for office. That was the thing, not so much of a business, but could the mayor run for another office while being the mayor, or run for mayor in another office at the same time? I think that's what I remember our discussion being about, that we required more discussion on. But,
We did talk about
Yeah.
the ability to run for other office,
Yeah.
and we frankly, in my opinion, settled the question, and the majority of the group felt that they could do that.
I mean, they just wrote for further discussion, and I'm saying that's what the discussion was about.
But
We
the other-
really didn't get into somebody owning a business at the discussion.
That's the only part.
Right.
That was a mistake in our editing.
Oh, okay,
That
okay.
should have been down there.
Okay,
My mistake.
okay, I'm good. I just saw it and I was like, wait a
My
minute. Okay,
That's why it says draft. I make mistakes.
me too.
The numbering.
Okay, moving to 306, forfeiture of office. An individual serving as mayor shall forfeit their office if the individual, A, lacks at any time during the term of office any qualification or requirement for the office prescribed by this charter or by law. B, violates any express prohibition of this charter. C, following action by the Court of Common Pleas found that the mayor was incompetent and incapable of conducting their own affairs. D, has been convicted of any crime classified as a misdemeanor of the second class or higher under the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or the United States, or be convicted of any comparable crime under the laws of any other state in the United States.
Is that while they're serving as mayor?
Yes,
Okay,
This is
okay,
while-
I'm good,
They
I'm
should
good.
forfeit their office if they
Right,
have these
I'm good.
things.
I mean, as long as I was saying it wasn't someone that had a misdemeanor when they were 19 and then at 25 they decide to run, this is not applying to them. We're talking about someone that has been elected as the mayor and this happened, correct?
No, I think it says has been convicted.
convicted.
That's
So
what,
that's,
Mm.
An individual serving as mayor shall forfeit if
has been convicted.
they have been convicted of a crime classified as misdemeanor. I think this is here because we intended to use the language from the state constitution around, I don't remember what exactly it says, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's something in the state constitution that says infamous crimes means you can't hold an office in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this language is consistent phrases that are used elsewhere.
Where is it? What do you mean by elsewhere?
I'm not sure if it's in the Constitution. I think it's in the code, though.
Maybe here's a question for you, Barry, as the solicitor and as an attorney. I think I don't have a great sense of a misdemeanor in the second degree.
I was just going to ask the same thing. What are we talking about? Is it a misdemeanor in the second class? Is this drunk driving or a bar fight or a?
There's an entire crimes code that lays out a series of crimes. They range from summary crimes to misdemeanor 1s, misdemeanor 2s. And usually a misdemeanor 2 is something far more serious. I mean, you're going to be dealing with, it's generally where you're going to start dealing with typically jail time. Misdemeanor 1s can have jail time, but it's typically more
Fines.
not issued.
Right.
We can pull the crimes code for you. I don't have off the top of my head, right now as we speak, a specific listing of everything that's a misdemeanor. 2.
And again, I think my concern was, is this saying once the mayor's elected, or are we saying somebody that's now 30 years old had a misdemeanor crime when they were 18 and they can no longer run for the mayor?
Yes.
That's what this is saying.
This is saying?
Well, I think,
What
yeah.
this is saying.
I don't think we want
If
to.
it-
I don't think that's what I was suggesting that we say. I mean, I thought this was applying to somebody that was elected as a mayor and they did these things. They would,
While they were mayor.
right,
Right,
not
during their tenure.
something for your past history.
Right.
So
During their
while
tenure.
mayor convicted
does that make
of a
sense?
crime.
That's what I thought you guys were.
That's what I
suggesting
thought
as
they
well.
were saying.
I generally think that the language should just reflect what the state constitution says, and then we don't really need to worry about it, I guess.
Can you give us the language of the state constitution?
I think I did actually email
Yeah.
it a while ago, but
Okay. Can you-
I just don't want to, I am of belief somebody can change. So somebody that's 18 and does a misdemeanor 2 and now they're 35 and their life has changed around and they are very active and a law-abiding citizen should not be excluded from running for mayor for something they did at 18. Now, if they did it while they were in the office, I think, yes, they should be,
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
I agree with that, but I'm looking at two different charters and they have the same language, very similar language, that it just refers to someone if is convicted of a crime.
Is instead of
Not
has
instead
been.
of has been.
Right.
Is convicted of any crime as a misdemeanor second
Right.
class under the laws.
And I think that would mean someone that's already the mayor, right?
I'm not gonna lie.
If
but
we say
thi-
is.
This one makes me feel a
please
little
do.
weird because like we are a city that has a decriminalization ordinance on cannabis, but according to I don't know what possession of cannabis is under a state or federal standard. Like I don't know where that classifies.
Yeah, that's,
But like
Misdemeanor.
it's a misdemeanor.
I believe it's a misdemeanor, isn't it?
possession to not sell, just, it depends on the amount, again, as to where it's classified. But in general, a misdemeanor 2 is a misdemeanor that carries a sentence of no more than 2 years in jail and a fine of no more than $5,000. Some examples of that would be resisting arrest, arson. They are not the serious crimes that we think of, like felonies in terms of aggravated assault, murder, and yet they're not the simple ones, the most basic, like, which would be a possession of a small amount of marijuana, not to sell, and there's amounts. And those code provisions, they change. So it's all in Title 18. So the state legislature is going to be changing over time what are misdemeanor 1s, misdemeanor 2s, and felonies. That is a state law that's adopted. You can add new crimes. So
I think the suggestion simply to make it present tense as opposed
Is say
to past
is convicted instead
would
of
be
has been
sufficient.
convicted.
Yeah.
Seems like there's consensus.
We
on
can
that.
even add while serving as
I
mayor.
agree.
We can even add it while serving as mayor, make it specific.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and
That works.
Fine with
All
me.
right.
So the two charters I mentioned, I'm looking at a third one that says while in office.
Okay, what city is that?
Johnstown.
Okay.
I like
While
that.
serving as
I like
mayor
that.
then, okay, while
Yeah.
serving as mayor.
During
Yeah.
your tenure.
All
yeah,
right,
that-
we can certainly make that change.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, continuing, Article
The other two.
306E commits malfeasance in office, which shall be
Right.
defined as an unlawful official act committed willfully. F commits
Yeah, and they both say,
that should be,
So I have a question about the next section of this where it says, in all cases of forfeiture, the mayor shall be entitled to notice and a hearing before the council prior to the council meeting at which such forfeiture is to be acted on with admin procedures established by council. So I understood what's being said here to mean that their office is forfeit. They cannot stay in this office and the council doesn't vote or have a say in that matter? Is that right? And if so, what is the purpose of the provision of this hearing? Just so they get the chance to say their piece before the public?
the purpose is to give them an opportunity to present their side of the issue.
Okay, but they cannot change the fact that they
still can't
cannot
serve.
hold the office if they are in violation of any of these circumstances. So let's say misdemeanor 2, and they get up there at the hearing, they say, I was wronged, all these things happened, it's not my fault, and everybody's like, yeah, actually, it's true, he was wronged, it's not his fault, but it doesn't matter, right? They can say whatever they want, they get to be on the record, it's all well and good, but he's losing the position, right?
Yeah, I think some of them are very straightforward, but there could be some discretion with others.
A would be residency, if there's a debate on residency, where they live.
Okay, that would become the body at which, it wouldn't go to a court if there was a dispute over residency?
It could.
Okay,
After a
this
notice
would,
of hearing of the council.
okay, it would become, because it's a hearing, anything that was said would become part of a record that was preserved, and then the judge says, well, I was reading the record and I can see, blah, blah, blah.
It could, yeah, it
Okay.
could be appealed to court.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the accordance with administrative procedures to be established by council could set the terms of that hearing, whether or not it's sworn testimony in front of the council, or however the council wants to set that.
But council don't have the right to change it, right?
Yeah, that, the council doesn't have the right to change it. You go there, you say your piece,
Okay,
maybe
I'm
it
good.
becomes relevant, maybe it doesn't, but it's available to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's fine.
yeah, B would be debatable.
perspective.
Okay, so it's a good point where you're talking about.
Just to be acted on in accordance.
I think what does acted on mean?
Yeah.
Receive the forfeiture notice, like, here you go, my official notice of resignation, and then you vote to accept it even though they don't have to?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow
Oh.
Carl.
So it says, in a hearing before the council, we talked about the function of the hearing, at which such forfeiture is to be acted on. What action does the council take?
I think they declare the office of the mayor vacant. The office of the mayor is vacant because the charter qualifications have been violated.
If I may interject, I read this a little bit differently. I read, in all cases of forfeiture, the mayor shall be entitled to notice. It doesn't say that the mayor, if the
And
mayor
a
can just
hearing.
say, I'm gone. you
Notice
know,
and a
You're
hearing.
right, I'm dead to rights, I'm out of here. But if they don't, then council can step in and say, we are hereby giving you notice,
I
you
think I
must
see
show
it.
up.
Prior
and-
to the meeting in which it's like, okay, it's vacant now.
Yeah.
You're not the mayor.
They're gonna say, the mayor says, I didn't do this. Somebody says, you just violated the charter. No, I didn't. So council says, we're having a hearing.
Yeah, we may want to reword this a little bit to say something like, in all cases of forfeiture and prior to the declaration of vacancy by council.
Yeah.
Do we need a declaration of vacancy by council? Is
Yeah.
there a reason that needs to be in?
Well, if they don't resign,
Yeah.
and there's a debate.
Yeah, it should be.
And then the timeline kicks in that we
okay.
discussed.
I mean, there has to be a method to force the person out of office. They can
Right.
simply say, I like it here.
I guess I thought they just take him to court.
I don't want to leave.
Come to chair.
I know, I'm not leaving.
Right.
Chair.
No shame in the game.
So there's really three options. So option A is it could be any resident, council member, anybody. I mean, you could, three options to lay out or a combination thereof in the charter. Any resident could petition the court to declare the office vacant based on a forfeiture provision that's in the charter. You could leave it to council to go to court, or the mayor to, it would be the council going to court for a mayor forfeiture. Mayor usually going to court for a council member forfeiture. Or you could do what's been done here, which there's an action that's taken by council to say that the charters as a whole, the charter, there's been a forfeiture of the position in accordance with the charter after an opportunity for due process. Because even in this list of items, there are things that are not necessarily automatic. So again, there could be a dispute as to whether residency is or is not in the city. Unfortunately, I can tell you we've had several cases where property lines go right through the city.
Right through a house.
Yeah. The language regarding commits malfeasance or commits misfeasance, that is not necessarily a given fact. It has to be somehow established. So those are the three, in my mind, methodologies for getting to the same place. Which method the commission wishes to take, I think, is the question.
I have a weirdly specific question for you, Barry. To that point about the borders sometimes running through buildings, would it maybe be helpful if the charter specified that regardless of where the border is at, it's whether or not that property is taxable, the property in which they reside is taxable in that municipality?
Well, yes, you could, but it still doesn't solve all the residency requirements. So how do you define residency? And it's a factual issue. Am I actually living in the city, right? So I'll give examples. I'm spending 3 nights a week in Lancaster City, and I'm spending 4 nights a week for 1 month in Carnarvon Township. And then the next month, I'm switching. Am I residing in the city?
Okay.
So again, this is where the administrative code is going to have some play, but there's always going to be potential questions of fact. This is one of the reasons people like for law to be black and white, and it's often very gray.
Right.
No matter how well we write rules, people will figure out a way to break them.
I just would like to see that section written a little different, because, okay,
I
then
think
I'm good.
Yeah, and I think I understand the wisdom of what's trying to be conveyed now.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you'll see it again. We won't necessarily go over it in session like this, but then
You'll send us
you'll
a
have
copy
the
of
opportunity
it.
to discuss it and if you want to in other meetings.
Okay,
Okay?
we're good.
We'll change the language here, but not necessarily reread it again. Yeah, go ahead.
Patty,
You want me to go?
we're going live here.
307, vacancies.
Oh, live edit.
Go ahead.
The office of the mayor shall become vacant, upon death, resignation, removal from office in any manner authorized by law, or forfeiture of office. The vacancy in the office of mayor shall be filled by a majority vote of the members of council. If the council fails to act within 45 days following the next council meeting after the occurrence of the vacancy, the President Judge of the Court of Common Pleas of Lancaster County shall, upon petition of 3 members of council or 10 qualified voters of the city, fill the vacancy in such office by the appointment of a qualified resident of the city, irrespective of political affiliation. And we did extend that time period per your discussion to 45 days rather than 30, which is what exists right now. The appointed individual will remain in office until the first Monday in January following the next municipal election. At such municipal general election, a qualified person shall be elected to serve from the first Monday of January following the election for the remainder of the term of the person originally elected to such office, or if such term would otherwise expire on the first Monday following for a new full term. The appointed individual shall meet all of the qualifications and requirements of office as provided for in this charter and by applicable law. Any comments?
I only have one that I think I've said before. I think there are some circumstances where not just the mayor, but when someone leaves elected office, let's just say hypothetically, a senator passed away, and then a senator passed away, and the mayor or a councilor gets tapped to be a special appointment until the next election. I feel like there's room for some situations, the elected officials departing, because it's not like they're leaving on bad behavior. It's like someone's tapped them for higher responsibility or otherwise, or maybe they're just like, hey, this job, something's going on, and I feel like I need to resign. I feel like there's room for those people to leave short lists of candidates they'd like to see.
But I don't see anything that precludes that.
What?
Go to council. Council
Yes.
does not have to listen to
They can
it,
just give them the list. Hey.
but they could.
It's the listening part that bothers me. It's like I feel like there should be room for listening.
I don't know.
The council is elected by the voters to make these decisions. I don't see why we can't let them make that decision.
We might be living in a hyper-partisan time in the future. Like,
We live in a hyper-partisan time now?
I'm talking even more hyper-partisan in the sense that the city's no longer a one-party city. Like, the
Why
mayor.
would that be a bad thing?
What I'm saying is that if someone were to the same point you made about if the mayor's kind of the head of the democratic functions of the county, like what if the mayor were to end up running for county commissioner and winning county commissioner? Mm-hmm. That's arguably a positive, but let's say the council is flipped or fully Republican, suddenly we're in a situation where maybe they don't want to see a Democrat mayor. And I feel like the mayor, if it's not a heinous reason for departure, it's like, yeah, leave a short list for them to consider at least.
I don't know why we need to make this very complicated.
I don't think that's complicated.
I do.
Okay.
I think that's exactly a consideration a mayor would have to make.
Yeah.
Mayor
Okay.
would say, I was just offered the job of being Secretary of Commerce for the state. But doing so would clearly make the party change in the mayor's office. You know, they're big kids now. They have to make that decision.
All right, fair enough.
And if they don't like that, then they don't take the job as Secretary of Commerce.
Okay.
That'd be my thought.
That's understandable.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Makes sense.
But I do think, there's nothing precluding them from saying, and by the way, here's a list of 5 people I think would make really good acting mayors.
Gotcha.
But I don't think that has to be written.
They
in
have
the
an
charter.
acting mayor. That's what the draft article
Right.
says.
Yeah.
Until the vacancy is
Yeah, it's in
filled.
here.
It is already in the language. Until the vacancy's filled, we would have somebody acting as, if the mayor would die, we're gonna have somebody acting as mayor until there's
To
an
fulfill
election.
that term, yep.
So there's gonna be somebody fulfilling that position.
Okay. Moving to section 308, compensation. The mayor shall receive an annual salary as established by council by ordinance. The salary of the mayor may be changed by council, but such ordinance will not take effect until the date of the commencement of the term of the mayor elected at the next regular municipal general election following adoption of the ordinance. The mayor shall also receive other benefits as deemed appropriate and included in the compensation ordinance.
I feel like the residents should vote on what the mayor's being salaried at.
That is a terrible idea.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
that would come right up there with the voters should decide how much teachers should get paid. And I can tell you right now what my neighbors think teachers should get paid. They should volunteer. And I can't imagine a voter who says, no, I think the mayor should be a volunteer position. So, yeah.
It's a full-time employee
With benefits.
with
Yep.
benefits.
Agreement on that? Okay.
Well, I would just say the mayor shall receive other benefits as deemed appropriate and included in the compensation. Well, okay. It'll be written in the ordinance. I would have liked it to be spelled out a little more. That would have said health benefits, educational benefits, like we saw the budget for council and it listed things, the benefits that they would receive.
Right, but I think
Is that going to be spelled out in the compensation ordinance?
I would say it must be.
Yeah, I would think so.
I'm asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. The compensation ordinance
would that
Compensating
spell
ordinance
out
would
what those
outline that.
benefits are?
Right.
So that
They would outline that, right.
So
And
that's
if
what
it
I
isn't
was
in the
asking.
ordinance, it wouldn't be allowed, and the ordinance would then set the amount for the budget. You okay? So,
I'm okay.
okay, good, thanks. All right, number 309 is powers and duties of the mayor. Execute, enforce, obey the ordinances of the city and laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, United States of America. Prepare and present a budget to city council in accordance with the provisions of this charter and administrative code. Report annually to the city council
Hold
on
on a moment.
Yeah,
Sure.
like, can't we, put in there, prepare and present a budget 4 times a year as we did, make that part of the charter?
You mean
versus them
report?
finish-
You mean
Yeah.
report on the budget?
Yes. I mean, we talked about that, and we
Yes.
said it somewhere, and I think we keep saying, well, we're gonna put it in administrative
I
code.
think it's in the budget and finance article, isn't it?
Is that where we put
I
it?
thought it
That's in
was.
the-
Right,
it's in the-
but I'm saying it cannot be, and that'll show up as part of the charter, under
Right.
the budget and finance.
Yes,
I'm okay.
because this
I'm
one,
okay.
this one is to present and prepare the budget. Okay, I think you're talking about budget reporting, how they're
Yes.
doing. Okay, and that is, so this gives the mayor the power to prepare the budget, no one else.
All right, and then what would be put in the administrative code about that? Just so I know what things we're looking
Well,
at.
the budget and finance article governs that, and it's a form, the budget would be a form approved by the mayor. That's in the article that we reviewed at the.
Right, but I'm saying, you're saying it would be put in the charter and the administrative code. You know, we talk about so many things, we're just gonna place
Yeah,
them in
the
the
administrative code could describe the information presented in the charter. Like it could outline it and say this will cover this, whereas the budget and finance has very broad language. If you remember, the budget and finance gave the mayor the format, and the administrative code could go further if the council wanted it to go further, to add to it. All right, if there's a discrepancy here between this section and the budget, we'll look at it.
Okay,
But I think the intent is the same.
okay,
But I understand what you're saying, Ms. Burke.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Ms. Byrd, the draft of the budget and finance article has details about the whole budget process.
Mm-hmm,
The format for the budget, the timing of the budget, all of the various elements related to the presentation of the budget. That's covered in the budget and finance article. This is just under the powers of the mayor, simply to prepare the budget and present it to council.
To be more specific, the draft that they've presented to you, section 1009, under Budget and Capital Program Administration, details monthly budget reports and then quarterly budget reviews, which is, I think, what you were talking about, Mr.
right, right.
And that's required, and that's part of the draft of the charter, so it will be in the budget section of the charter that is there.
Right, and I understood that, it was just the administrative code that I didn't understand, because the administrative code is developed by the council and the mayor. So I was asking what other than what we're putting in there would go into that administrative code about about the budget being presented to council.
that I don't know until the administrative code is written, but the
I think a
charter is
fund
the minimum.
policy might be in
that it would
the
do it.
administrative code.
Just
But we're
clarification.
talking about under the powers of the mayor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just clarification. Article 11 that you just mentioned, that's with the Budget and Finance
It is.
Commission.
Right,
Okay.
that's
The
in
rest
our-
of us
Yeah,
haven't
I'm
seen
missing
it
it.
yet.
You guys don't have that.
I just want, I know that I haven't seen it. I just want to make sure everybody realizes that that's why
Right.
the rest of us haven't seen it yet.
Listening to me, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I guess the way I'm understanding it, and tell me if, is that, if there was, if something emerged where it wasn't addressed in the charter, the administrative code could fill in a blank, but the administrative code couldn't do something
To
that
supersede the charter.
supersede or conflicts with the charter.
Right, understand that.
So, I mean, I think, I mean,
I just didn't know why we had the administrative
We're not
code
gonna
in
think
there.
of it, we're not gonna think of everything, and we're not gonna, my opinion has been, I mean, well, first of all, I don't think we're gonna think of every scenario, nor should we be trying to anticipate every detailed scenario. And we also, I mean, we don't wanna get the charter to such a level of detail, that's what the administrative code is for, is to fill in the level of detail that wouldn't
be appropriate for the charter.
Right, so why wouldn't we put that language under the budget and finance instead of under the, here where we're putting it for the administrative code? Because it would come down the line that it would be under what we develop
She's
as
saying
the
it is
budget
in
and
the budget.
finance. Right, then it don't need to be under the it doesn't need to be here. Because what I see is under the powers and duty, again, we're giving it to the mayor and council. And as a charter, we should have it already defined.
I think it's just saying that in the event that above and beyond what the charter requires, the council passes a rule and the mayor approves it in the administrative code around the preparation of the budget, they have to follow it. And I don't see that as a problem.
Could I
I think it's just a
explain it?
matter of understanding.
Yeah, could I explain how it was, kind of how we wrote it?
Yeah.
This section is both powers and duties.
Okay.
Okay, so if you take it that way and you look at B, a power of the mayor is to present and prepare a budget to city council, period. A duty of the mayor is to prepare and present a budget to city council in accordance with the provisions of the charter and administrative code. So this one sentence is saying the mayor has the power to do the budget, but must follow
Have the
the charter and
duties,
the administrative code. The duty and the power are always inherent in both of these. That's why it says powers and duties. So,
It should be written like that. That would make easy reading and understanding for me.
okay.
I mean, if we just wrote it out, this is the powers and these are the duties. I mean, we're looking for citizens to read this and understand it.
We'd have to say something like prepare and present a budget to city council, period. Such budget would be prepared in accordance with the provisions of the charter and administrative code. So that's, you sort of want to see it more black and white like that.
Yeah, if it's okay.
I think the fact that you're still just including it is good. It's a good point, because I understand it has to refer to something, because it's not just the charter that we're referring to for how the government is run. It's also according to the administrative
Right.
code.
That
Right,
goes hand
and you
in
have to
hand.
refer it, yeah.
Right. That goes, yeah, the administrative code is always behind the scenes on how the government's to be operated.
Yes.
Okay. C, a report annually to city council and the public on the state of the city. D, provide council with all information concerning finances and general conditions of the city as may be requested by council or as required by this charter. E, provide proposed legislation to council and make recommendations for action by city council on affairs of the city. F, appoint with the consent of council all department heads.
Jerry.
Sorry, back up to,
Sorry, go ahead.
backing up to E, I would be interested to see the mayor also, like, let's say the council doesn't want to act on that legislation, outlining that it could go to referendum to the public as well.
That would be under the ordinance and initiative referendums sections. There's a limitation, well, let's, Mr.
Can we like reference that?
There is an initiative and referendum article being prepared, and then you'll be looking at what can be subject to initiative referendum, what cannot be. And, you know, there's certain things you may not want to be subject to initiative or referendum.
Right, like, I guess what I'm saying is like, can we at least build out the specificity later, but note that according to that section of the charter, the mayor may put forward ordinances that if council does not wish to act, could be put to referendum by the public in that election year.
I don't think the mayor should have the power to supersede council's legislating authority.
They're not, the public would be.
The public is being empowered by the mayor to supersede the council, and I don't think that should happen.
I mean, the charter will say that a referendum is available.
So any member of the public could propose a referendum and get the signatures and get it on the ballot.
Get it on the ballot.
What you're saying is, if the mayor doesn't like what city council did, the mayor can put a referendum on
One
the ballot.
citizen, without meeting the standards that every other citizen in the
Yeah.
city that would have to meet.
I'm with them on that. I'd say, actually, the mayor must work to a higher standard than everybody else.
All right,
That-
I mean, I guess the mayor could.
I mean, the mayor can go to you
The
and
mayor could
say,
go petition
hey,
themselves, yeah.
hey,
I mean,
you know,
there'll be a referendum process,
All right,
and that'll be
Yeah.
described in
That
the
makes sense.
charter.
that's reasonable enough.
Yeah.
I can understand that now.
Fair enough? Citizens would have the same power as the mayor to propose legislation to the council
Yeah,
under initiative referendum.
okay.
F don't
All right.
make sense.
F, appoint with the consent of council all department heads. G, supervise all departments, offices, and agency of the city except as otherwise provided by this charter or by law. J, Oh, we're missing, so, hey, H and I.
Mr. Cross?
I know.
Yeah.
So
Yes, Mr.
appoint the consent, I was looking at F, appoint with the consent of council all department heads. So I thought we had some kind of language that, okay, you're saying the consent of council, but I thought we had language that council would have to vote on the appointment, and we discussed majority on there on how that would happen for department heads. That they weren't just the mayor made an appointment with council approval, not just their consent. And, to me, I just see that as different, language-wise.
When you said consent, did you mean it to perform the function that Commissioner Byrd?
Council can't consent without taking formal action because they're a legislative body, so.
Right.
I mean, the word choice.
I would just like the wording to
The
be
word
clear.
choice is what you're focusing on.
Yes,
They're
yes,
really one-
exactly.
They're really one and the same, but you could say approval if you didn't like consent.
Can we say consent and approval?
But it would take a legislative action, and typically,
Okay,
city practice has been to do that by resolution.
right.
Okay, so how about consent and approval of department heads?
It's fine with me.
With the consent and approval of council?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to clean up the lettering, because I notice it's a little bit jazzed up.
Numbers too, by the way.
Yeah, we know that. We got that.
We appreciate you every day.
It's multiple editors and looking at different things. Remember that sentence, Paris in the spring, when you split it? Maybe you didn't go to my school.
What would happen if council just, let's just say, again, there's a fight between the mayor and council. What would happen in the situation if council just everyone you put forward, we're gonna,
Have to get somebody else.
Yeah, there's
All right.
appointments.
but
There's no appointment then.
I guess what I'm saying is what would happen if council just continues to reject the appointments and department head positions remain unfilled for long periods of time?
Presumably it would be a department deputy or some interim, typically an interim department.
Yeah, I mean, this happens in other legislative bodies. I can tell you it's happened at the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania quite often.
All right.
And
We're gonna help.
staff members end up moving and doing the responsibilities until some consensus is received on the appointment. And
Okay.
The mayor has the power, duty to supervise all departments, offices, and agencies of the city except as otherwise provided by this charter or by law. Appoint, suspend, or remove any city employee except as otherwise provided by this charter or by law, and otherwise, unless otherwise provided, be responsible for the employment of personnel necessary for the effective operation of city government. Execute all bonds, notes, contracts, and written obligations of the city. Voluntarily attend all public meetings of council. At the request of council, the mayor shall appear at public council meetings. Participate in all public discussions but have no vote, except in the case of a tie vote by council on filling a vacancy on council. Request that council convene a special meeting to address and act upon necessary or unforeseen items and enable certain emergency powers to be more effectively utilized. Veto any ordinance adopted by council. Before any ordinance takes effect, it must first be submitted to the mayor for approval. The mayor shall sign the ordinance within 10 days if approved, but if not, shall return it to council stating objections in a written message. Council may at its next meeting reconsider the ordinance and may pass it over the mayor's veto by the affirmative vote of a majority plus one of the members of city council. Perform such other duties and exercise such other powers as stated in this charter by applicable law or ordinance.
I have a question for the commissioners. So, I don't know when the last time it might have occurred that something has gone to the mayor's desk through slim margins, but let's say there is a tie vote on something. I would be interested in seeing the mayor have the ability that still goes to their desk, but if they don't sign it, it does not go into effect. Them essentially in this.
Pocket veto.
But I think it's
pocket veto.
Pocket veto is actually the other way around. When the executive doesn't sign it, it just becomes law. I think the Governor Wolf approved a budget that way at least once. So just for clarity, that's like the traditional practice in the executive doesn't sign it is it goes into law, not the executive doesn't sign it. It is vetoed.
Right.
But I think you have something different that you want.
A little different, yeah. Like instead of a tie vote, instead of that killing something, the mayor still has the option to sign it into law. But if they don't sign it, it is not law. It is dead.
I don't like that, but why wouldn't you just have the mayor break the tie if that's what you want?
Well, they can only break a tie for. Well, I mean,
Because that's what the charter says.
I'm comfortable with the mayor breaking all ties. I just don't know if you guys are.
So I think the answer here to your question is, in theory, there is no such thing as a tie. So keep in mind that city council members cannot abstain from voting simply because they don't want to vote.
Right.
There are prohibitions under the ethics code and presumptively they would track here, but you can only not vote if there is a certain ethical obligation not to, which is a pecuniary obligation, and the code then goes on to provide, however, if your vote is necessary to break a tie, you actually must vote. Right. So the only instance where there could potentially be a tie is if you have, at a meeting, a council member doesn't appear, and so you have an even number. Well, the next meeting, they can reconsider it again. Okay. Or if there is a vacancy, and again, you've built in a process for having the vacancy filled. So in theory, there shouldn't be an instance of a tie that needs an ordinance to be broken on.
Wait, I want to contest a little bit of that. If something were to fail at a vote, if it's an ordinance, wouldn't it have to go all the way back to committee and then back through that process of first and second reading again?
So committees are a matter of council practice. They're not a legal requirement. In terms of whether it has to go back for first reading and second reading, it depends. Again, that's where certain things in the administrative code would flesh out what necessary advertising would have to happen. Typically, if there's a substantial change in the ordinance, then it would have to be re-advertised. Most legal notices, if they're written correctly or written with anticipation, will say it will be voted on for adoption at a certain meeting or another meeting to occur within 30 days thereafter, for example, to cover a possibility where there was not a quorum or not enough members to vote or something else happened.
Okay.
Any other questions on that's powers and duties of the mayor?
Yeah, I just want to see under I think it is, enable certain emergency powers to be effectively utilized. Can we be more specific about what those certain emergency powers are?
You know, I actually like that you said that. I'm going to say something out of left field here. I've thought a lot about, like, the idea of requiring that at least sorry. Now I'm just doing it. I thought there was a little thing here. Anyway.
Oh, I might be talking about it.
I've thought about the idea of, like, how technology is of value to participation and engagement, but I understand that there is wonkiness with technology. I do think, though, that we as a city should be prioritizing always functioning technology. I think that it would be acceptable for me, like, hey, if there really is an emergency, like to the extent of technology, I'd be interested in seeing our city council be required to at least broadcast the meetings. We can talk about retention at a different point, but the mayor having the ability to be like, there is a literal emergency going on, like the world is in crisis or like power's out throughout the city, we cannot broadcast type deal.
But there's no requirement for it to be broadcast now.
But that's what I'm saying is I've thought a lot, and I'm circling back a little bit to those other conversations to say if in terms of specificity, that is one that I would be comfortable with if we included that requirement for council in their section. That's what I'm saying.
But we have that subcommittee, so maybe you could
right.
talk about it to subcommittee.
So I'm looking at this item under I, request that council convene a special meeting to address and act upon necessary or unforeseen items and enable certain emergency powers to be more effectively utilized. I suspect what's being referred to here is a state of emergency being called, but I don't know a lot about how that process works, so maybe you can tell me.
I didn't know what it was saying, so that's why I asked. I didn't know what they meant by certain emergency powers, but now that you say state of emergency, then maybe we should say that.
Typically, it would be issued by state government, by the governor, and under the third-class city code, there is language right now that if the mayor determines that a state of emergency exists, the mayor may issue a proclamation in writing declaring a state of emergency. Mayor shall provide notice of the contents of the proclamation to council and to the news media within the city.
So we can't say that.
Well, you can say it here.
I mean, it's already in
I
the
guess-
third-class
Say it
city
here.
code, so why are we?
If the point is to refer to a state of emergency, can we just be more clear about the fact that that's what we're referring to?
I mean, what you read is what's existing in the third-class code now, correct?
Correct.
So do we have to change that I? We can't use that same language for I?
We can use that language.
Because that makes more sense to
Okay,
me about
you
the
can add
state
that.
of emergency. Does that work for you?
Yeah, it's fine.
I like that. Yeah, makes sense.
You like that?
I'll add that
I
language.
like that. All right, any other items before we move to solicitor?
Yeah, it was.
Can we get through solicitor?
Yeah, the question is the time. Personally, I'd like to get through the solicitor.
Get through solicitor?
I
Yeah, I'm fine
understand,
with that. There's no public here anyways.
so we're not keeping anybody up. You don't have a deadline?
Yeah, let's try to wrap up solicitor if we can. Hopefully that goes fairly quickly. Article 5 on the city solicitor, general powers and duties. The city solicitor shall be the chief lawyer of the city and shall have the direction and control of all legal matters of the city. Qualifications. The solicitor must be a member of the Pennsylvania Bar and licensed as an attorney in Pennsylvania and experienced in municipal law. The solicitor may be an individual or a firm. Term of office.
Did you have a comment?
Comment?
I'm just thinking a minute. I'm playing it through my head. So you're represented as an individual now or solicitor, or you a firm?
No, I'm one person.
Okay, right. So why are we thinking we need to go to a firm? I need to
Well,
understand that.
Well, I can tell you that before I became the city's first in-house solicitor in 2000, it was always a firm for decades.
Okay.
There was usually one named attorney, but it was them and their firm to serve. And the thought that was put when we had the discussion on solicitor earlier was to leave the flexibility for council to have that choice.
To do firm or individual?
If they wish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Term of office. The solicitor shall be appointed by the mayor by and with the advice and consent of the council and shall serve for a term of 4 years concurrent with that of the mayor. The solicitor shall be removable from office at the discretion of the mayor upon written notice of intention to the council as provided for heads of departments. Bonding requirements. Before entering into office, the city solicitor shall give bond to the city as required by law in an amount to be determined by council. Compensation. The compensation of the city solicitor shall be determined and fixed by council in the annual budget ordinance. Powers and duties of the solicitor. Represent the city with the city as the client and serve as the chief legal advisor to the mayor, council, and all city departments, offices, and agencies, with the exception of the zoning hearing board, which shall have independent counsel. Oversee as directed by resolution or ordinance the preparation of all bonds, obligations, contracts, leases, conveyances, and assurances to which the city or a city department is a party. Oversee litigation by and against the city or a city officer in the city officer's official capacity, including filing of a municipal claim or lien, and administrative practices. Perform any action incident to the office which the city solicitor may be lawfully authorized and required to do by the mayor or by any ordinance or resolution of council. The city solicitor shall provide written opinions on questions of law submitted by any of the following: city council, the mayor, any other city elected official, any appointed city official designated by council as authorized to request a written legal opinion. Council may provide for the regulation of the manner in which questions are presented to the solicitor by any elected or appointed city official, and may limit the questions submitted in the manner council may direct. Perform such other duties as may be required by the mayor and/or council as prescribed by law, by this charter, or by the administrative code. Assistant solicitor. Council may appoint one or more assistant city solicitors to assist the city solicitor in the performance of all duties and shall provide for the compensation of assistant solicitors by resolution.
By ordinance?
That needs to be by order.
By ordinance? Okay.
Solicitor suggested
I think-
ordinance?
Yeah, I was gonna say it should be by,
In light of the current, when it was an outside firm, it was a little different. Now that you have inside counsel, if I'm appointing an assistant solicitor, they'll be an employee of the city. So I think that would be controlled by the budget ordinance, so I think that should probably be by.
that's what was gonna be my next question, that'd be controlled by the budget, okay.
The appointment of a city solicitor by ordinance?
Assistant.
Assistant rather than by ordinance.
Special counsel can stay as by resolution, because that's using outside.
And special counsel may, as it deems necessary, employ the services of special legal counsel to assist the city solicitor or to advise or represent the city or any of its officials or official bodies or agencies in any legal matter, and shall provide for the compensation of special counsel by resolution.
That one needs to stay the same.
Resolution.
Can you give an example of what that would be? Just one.
Yeah.
We have very many special counsel appointed. So for example, Finance Committee met on Monday to review a bond and a note ordinance in which an opinion of bond counsel is required. We've appointed special counsel to serve as bond counsel. They have specific requirements and specific knowledge and expertise that a general municipal solicitor may not have. We've appointed special counsel to represent the city in the matter of our consent decree with EPA and DEP. We have special counsel appointed to assist us in dealing with the regulatory matters before the Public Utility Commission. So those are just a few examples.
Thank you.
And special counsel is a temporary position, okay, just so I understand.
And they're outside the city. They're not employees of the city.
Okay.
They're like a consultant.
Okay,
It would address a specific issue. Another example that some cities use special counsel for are labor negotiations.
a lot of money. Maybe that's why it's a problem. The only thing that I would say is, again, we say in terms of office, we use consent of council, if we could keep the language the same. I think I'm looking at 503, that we used before, and instead of just saying consent of council, but to use the same language throughout, so,
Consent and approval.
yeah.
Anything else on solicitor?
Should we go on to, there was a third one, wasn't there? I mean, we're doing good here.
Yeah, we are.
Appointed officials.
Just are all bonds,
You want to do it, Wendy?
just the number 2 at 505, number 2, are all bonds, I thought all bonds had to be by ordinance. Because we say resolutions or ordinance, and 505, number 2.
The bond is actually there's a physical document called a bond.
Oh,
The bond
okay.
is authorized or approved by ordinance. So the bond is like a promissory note. So for example, if you take out a loan from a bank and you're financing your purchase of your house,
Right,
you're going to sign a
right.
promissory note. That would be an equivalent of a bond. And,
Right.
So it's the preparation of documents like that that's referring to, not the methodology by which it's approved, which has to be by ordinance.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I kept seeing resolution and
Yeah.
ordinance, the preparations of bonds. But for approval, it's okay. But for approval, it has to be done by ordinance. But this is just preparing it, it can be done by a resolution with one reading.
Any other comments on solicitor? Okay, we can make those
I was gonna say, under the
corrections.
appointed officials, we've already covered solicitor and city engineer.
Yeah.
So
Where does that put us? Like what page?
I put us on page 5,
Five,
Of 8, yeah. That's
other
pretty good.
question.
5, 6.
So it starts
Acting mayor?
acting mayor,
Acting mayor,
which is actually page 5.
city business administrator,
Administrator,
and other department
Really
heads.
going
So
by fast.
that might be too much for now. That may be too much to ask tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to five, you know?
I leave it up to the commission.
I don't think we,
I would like to read, I have not read the
Yeah, I'd
questions
like
and
to
then
look
get
at
it.
some, like we.
That's for the 20th?
Right, I mean, but before we see, say come prepared and. I
Well, yeah,
really
we have the
don't-
questions.
Yeah, but
Read
I
those.
didn't read over them and I don't know if
All right,
anyone
read
else
them for
did.
next time. Or maybe we'll prepare language. Maybe we'll just do this.
I think you could probably.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we'll just do the charter language and see how that goes.
That would be my recommendation, is write up the charter language, just like we did.
Y'all like this? Y'all like the way this is going?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
All
do.
right, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to find my agenda again. I lost my own agenda. Oh, old business. Public subcommittee reports. Okay, moving back to regular order. Subcommittee reports, public engagement. Commissioner Rufo is not here. So she did post the public engagement meeting minutes. So they're available. They are in the shared folder, so anybody can read them. Preamble Committee, Mr. Barber is not here. I'm assuming they have not met. They've already written
We have not met.
you've written a preamble. Ethics Committee, Mr. Feldman.
We'll convene on Wednesday evening next week, the 12th, and we'll have
At 7 PM.
at 7 PM here in council chambers, and the gentleman from Scranton will join us to talk about the ethics board that they have, which I think will be pretty nice. And I think our goal will be to try and have a little bit of that conversation, talk a little bit about what we'd like to see in charter language, and then move on.
Okay, and I'll just say my recommendation is to start working on, with that, keep in mind just how the charter language, working with PEL and saying, okay, with what we want, here's the language we would like to, and bring that to the full commission.
We'll endeavor to do that at our next meeting.
I appreciate that, thank you. Budget and Finance, we've already heard from them. Do you have anything you'd like to add since?
Nope, I think
All
our
right.
next meeting is Monday and
At 9 AM?
Way to go.
cruising along, 9 a.m.
Okay. Is there any old business? Any other business for the commission?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
I would like to announce that the Home Rule Study Commission IG page, Instagram page, has been placed as of today.
I didn't know we had an Instagram page.
Well, as a result of the public engagement feedback, it was recommended.
Yes.
So I will email all of you, but for the public, it is HRSC, as in Home Rule Study Commission, Lancaster, PA.
Is it all one word, or is there an
That's all one word.
all just one big,
That's in-
okay.
And
Yes,
we still under old business,
other business.
other business. Okay, yeah, I just want to see that, I guess when we have the subcommittee, is that where we will be discussing redistricting? Is that where
That
that's
everything-
supposed to happen?
City council
I'm
goes into your
just wanna
subcommittee.
make- Just want to make
City council
sure
section
that
is-
that gets,
Yeah.
I was just
We-
asking him the same
oh,
question.
okay, I just want to make sure
so-
there's going to be a
so-
discussion
I'm
about
gonna
that.
reach out to through email to you and you, because I'll just say like generally, I'm hoping to have as many small meetings as we can throughout the community. But we'll figure out when we're able to meet and develop strategies. I already got some things cooking in the old noodle right now, and just I don't want to take our time up. Yeah, cooking in the old
Okay.
al dente.
Any other business for the good of the commission? Hearing none, in case anybody comes rushing in, any public comments?
We're getting out
May I
early.
ask, Bernie, did you get the IG page? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I was going to text her.
Yes, there is actually stepping back, sorry about that.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
Okay.
There is a meeting scheduled for June 29th in here, 10 a.m., I think is what we had been planning. Is that, now, okay, I follow you. My misunderstanding, I thought that had already been done. Yes, the plan is that to add a special meeting on June the 29th at 10 a.m. here in City Council chambers. So is there any objection to that?
No, I think we said it last time. So.
Okay, so yes, it is official if it could be posted, or and the announcement could
June
be,
29th,
notice made.
Saturday, June
Oh,
29th.
we having a meeting?
That's what
It is, officially, we have it scheduled.
Oh, but,
It can always be canceled if we don't need it.
oh, okay.
All right, now we'll go on.
Motion to adjourn.
I told you that I wasn't going to be able to make it
Yes.
December 2nd. Okay.
Yes, is there a second?
Second.
Any objection? Thank you. We are adjourned.
John, appreciate it.
Thank you all.
There you go.